All right, so let's talk about topography for a minute. We're not gonna come all the way over to this building. We're just gonna do a line up to this street, this street, this street, and everything that surrounds the building. As you remember from Google Earth, this is significantly lower on this side where they excavated to make room for the building and parking than this side. So let's try and figure out before we start modeling what that should be at. If I come to my north elevation and I use our picture, you can see right here, our level 0 is the top of this platform. So if I copy this down to the top of the next one, it's a little over 2 feet. And then down to what I think is the top of that one. Yeah, pretty close. So we have inconsistent dimensions. And change this so that we can actually see better. So we've got a level 0, then we've got a level -2 foot 2 inches, and then a level -3 foot 9 inches. That makes planning our stairs pretty difficult. So let's just take a look for a minute. I'm going to delete these because I don't think we're going to actually use them. And let's take a look at the actual building. So if we come over here, this is the main entrance. And we know from here to the bottom is 2 feet. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stairs. Now, if we come over here, this is one of the sides. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's highly unlikely that Louis Kahn decided to change the rise of his treads. So if we have 6 treads going up 2 feet there, and 6 treads going down over here, probably a foot, and then another foot. So I think that's what we use for this side. And then if we come look at Google Earth, you can see there's a lot going on here. We've got retaining walls that run along here and here. Also on the other side, we've got more retaining walls. So this bit gets a little trickier. So when we're looking at the Revit model, we've got to be careful with how we select our retaining wall and what's flat. Let me go back to Revit for a minute. So you can see here, we got a retaining wall that goes all the way here and then down. But while that's happening, this is naturally sloping down anyway, and we're not going to do any slopes. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. And for the most part, work with flat geometry with a lower and an upper level. So when we get to drawing this retaining wall, we'll have to make a decision as to whether we cut straight over, wrap around, and same thing on this side. We've got this retaining wall, but we're modeling all the way out to the street. So we'll have to figure out how we're going to handle that. All right, so let's make the actual topography, and we're going to start on this level. I'm going to go to massing and site, topo solid. Oh, first let's make our new levels, sorry. Cancel this. So we're going to go down 1 foot and down 1 foot again, and those are going to be for the higher level where our walkways, outdoor walkways, and our stairs are at. So I'm going to copy this down 1 foot and then another foot. And now down here, you can see I've already copied our basement level down 6 inches because typically speaking, curbs are roughly 6 inches in height, and those are going to meet the top of our floor. So for the actual asphalt parking, we need to go down 6 inches because we're going to build that curb up. So I'm going to rename this one, and I'm just going to call it level -2. And I'm gonna rename this one. Level -1. So now I can come in here and go to massing and site and make a topo solid. And I'm going to have it based off of level -2 because that's where the majority of this sits. We've got a little bit in here that's higher, and we've got a bunch over here that's lower. But most of what we're doing is going to be at level -2. And yeah, you make sure you don't click this one that says topo solid because that's choosing by face of something you've already drawn. We're doing one from scratch. So we got to click over here. Again, we got to make sure we're doing it from level -2. I'm just going to come in here, make a vertical line. Follow this path. Now the drawing cuts off here, so I'm just going to go to the edge of the drawing. And I'm not going to draw this curve right now. We'll deal with that later because we're just making the overall topography to start. Now I can use the trim function. Click OK. It's overlapping a floor. Yep, that's fine. We'll clean that up in a minute. Now if I come to my north elevation, you can see I'm going from level 2 all the way through. Now your topo solid is probably going to default to 1 foot thick. I have already gone in here and I've edited the structure to be 13 feet. While I'm in here now, let's see if I have earth to use as a material. Yes. So I've got this. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to come into my 3D view. I'm going to highlight the floor again, or the topo again. I'm going to switch to wireframe so that I can see through. And I'm going to use this excavate function over here. So what excavate does is you tell Revit where the bottom of your building is with this basement floor, and it automatically cuts the topography. So that error message we got about cutting through the floor is going to be fixed right here. So I'm going to click excavate, and it's asking me where. So I need to come to this basement floor, click once, and now if I come in here and create a section cut, you'll see I'm going to go back to realistic for a moment. You'll see that the topography runs underneath the building now. So that part's fixed. Now we need to figure out how we're going to make this lower level. And one of the ways to do that, probably the easiest way, hide this in view because it's going to get in my way. The easiest way to do that is by using a void. We're going to make a void that cuts all the way around here. So I'm going to go back to my main floor. I'm going to go into massing and site. I'm going to do an in-place mass. After we've drawn our shape, then we'll turn it into a void and we'll use the cut tool to cut the topography where we want. So I'm going to do an in-place mass. I don't really care about the name. And again, everything over here is lower. So I'm going to make the assumption that we're starting from this part of the building. And I'm going to come up to this retaining wall. Turn. So here we can either make a hard turn up to the edge, or we can make the curve. I think last year we did the curve and all of this was higher, and we just did a retaining wall all the way. I'm going to do it this way and just come up. And since it's a void, we can go past, just like we've done before. It'll be bigger than our object and it won't matter. And now I'm just going to finish it here and use my trim tool. Actually, that's going to go too far because of that. So let me move this up and delete it. Uh-oh. Shorten this one up. And then I'm going to figure out, I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to go back to line. I'm going to start from this same corner of the building. Come down to where this retaining wall is. And now I'll use the trim function a few times. Now we've got this shape. All this will be lower. I'm not going to worry about the street because I don't think we've modeled that. How this works is after you've created your shape, you click on it, and once it's blue, you come in and make a void form. Now you've got these different handlebars. I'm going to come to my north elevation and see where it is. And right now, it's not at all where I want it. So I'm going to click on this bottom part. And I'm going to drag it down until it snaps to that negative 10.6 I made. Now it's at the height I want. If I just click Finish Mass, it's not going to do anything. I have to use the Cut Geometry tool. I'm going to click Cut. I'm going to come in on the topography. And now I'm going to click the void. And now for all of that area, we'll come back to the 3D. I'm going to click Finish. You can ignore that particular warning. And if I go back to realistic, you can see I've got a big change in height here and here. So we'll model the retaining walls later. But that's the two main levels that we're going to work with. What do we do next? So we've got these paths that are going to be a different material. And we've got these bricks over here. So the easiest way to carve that out so you can have grass on this and some sort of pavement or pebble or sand over here is to split the topography. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to use split element. And right now we're only splitting this top bit. And now I can go back to this so that I can trace. I know it started over here. I'm going to use that as my starting point. Now again, I'm going to use this as just as a reference for now. I'll clean it up afterwards. And realistically, these are symmetrical as far as the fountains. So when I draw this line, rather than free-forming it on the other side, I'm going to want to use the mirror function. I don't currently see a model line that's going to help me. I thought I still had one in here. Oh, yes, I do right here. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to say mirror pick axis. And I'm going to use that. And I've got my line here. So that's kind of important because even though not everything is symmetrical, all this stuff in between is. This fountain is symmetrical to this fountain. All these walkways are symmetrical to each other, even though this path itself is asymmetrical. So if you freeform this when you're trying to put your fountains in later, you're not going to be able to just copy it using the mirror function. All right, I need to trim this a little or I'm going to get an error message. So because we have this extending beyond, I'm going to trim here to here. Same thing down here. I'm going to trim here to here. And now I won't run into an error message. I'm going to click OK. And now if I go back to my 3D view, you'll see that I have a completely separate surface. And I can use the paint function to do a different thing. So I'm going to just come in. I'm going to pick anything right now just to demo it. There is no good material in Revit currently, so you have to find one online. So I'm going to make that a very different color just so you can see. So we want to do that again on this side for the parking lot. And it's not going to work the way we want, but there's an easy fix. I'm going to click done here. I'm going to go back into my 3D. I'm going to use split, and I'm going to come down to this topo solid. And now I'm going to draw in the shape of this brick area. It doesn't matter if I go a little over, because again, we're going to be building on top of this with sidewalks. But you want to get close. So I could just come all the way up and clean it up because all of this has got stuff built on top of it we're not going to see. So what's going to happen this time when I click OK? Get the same message about the outlet floor. If I come into my 3D view, switch to an easier view to see. Now you can see all that stuff that we pushed down by 8.5 feet is now back at the same height because we've separated it from the parts that we told it were lower. You could do another void, but the easier solution at this point is just to click on this. And instead of being a level -2, first we have to add the level in. So go view, plan views. Let's add all the levels we created in. And so now I can pick this little funkiness, and instead of being on level -2, we're going to have it start on level -10.6. And now you can see it's back where we want it. The only thing we have to fix at this point is now it sticks below. That's not a big deal. Again, we can just adjust the height. I'm going to take a quick measurement to make sure I'm correct on it. And I'm going to measure from the bottom of this topo to here. So we have to make it 8.5 feet shorter. If we do that without duplicating, what's going to happen is we're going to end up changing the height of both. So we're going to click Edit Type. We're going to duplicate it. This will be our topo 2. And again, we're taking away 8.5 feet. That'll be 4'6" if my brain is functioning properly. Yep. And now it ends at the same place. So that's the basics of the actual topography. Again, we would paint this with brick because that's what it is. We'd paint this. We'd go back to Google Earth and figure it out. Everything else is building floors and sidewalks and other things on top of this. And we will do that in the next video.